We're on the air. So the mystic practice, we're going to put on the ad for One Spirit in the Rock River Times. The next thing is going to say, One Spirit is a mystical practice. See what happens. Change it up every time, right? Right. So the mystics, we are the new mystics. We're the modern mystics. It's and sometimes we have excited utterances. That's one of the definitions. Mystics have excited utterances. Sometimes they speak in tongues. It's an esoteric discipline. From the hidden place inside, from the secret place inside, we're able to manifest, as in the meditation, we're able to manifest love on the outside. And this is the purpose of it. The purpose of it isn't just so we can go sit and feel pleasant in the corner in a cave or somewhere, apart from the rest of humanity. The purpose is to get to that place where we can be really helpful in everything that we do. And many, many people are having this experience, and they're not making a big show of it. They're not trying to get on television. They're not trying to have some kind of following. They're just being quiet and then going out into their daily life and giving love into the world and saying appropriate things. Everybody can learn how to do this. Everybody can learn how to be quiet enough inside to get guidance from Spirit to say or do the thing that's appropriate in the moment and appropriate with the person that we are with in the moment. So these inner experiences become outward expressions. And writing is a big part of this mystical experience. Writing down what's going on with us. And one of the things on the path that is so important is, well, I sent it out in the text, wisdom. Wisdom. And there's a bunch of books back there up against the wall that if a person were to read them all, then there'd be a lot more books out there for you to read. But there would be some wisdom in there that you could glean. But only to the extent of knowing yourself first. So there's a lot of knowledge can be gleaned, a lot of conversation could be had based on what was read. We'd have all sorts of intellectual exercises going on that related to what was read. But in order for it to be wisdom, it actually has to mix with our knowledge of self and then become experiential. We need to be able to present it in a way that has something to do with us. So inner experiences become outer expressions by us knowing how to bring them into the world. And this is, last week we were talking about will, and will is a very big part of this. To say, I will do such and such, or to know that I have the will. I have the will to do what is necessary. Now, the problem with will is it's sometimes very easy to confuse it with self-will. Self-will being what the small part of us wants. Self-will being, and I should say it in a way, not in a denigrating way, but the part of us that's afraid. The part of us that really just wants to get what it thinks it needs at the expense of anything else. That would be what we would call self-will. Self-will is the part of us that thinks we're alone and needs to somehow protect itself from this perceived dangerous world. But will is a power. Will is an ability. And it's the ability to choose between that small will, that small self-will, and goodwill. So will sits in our mind as this mechanism by which we make decisions. And we can decide whether or not we're going to go down that path of self-will, which many times seems attractive. Many times it's an anxious, frightened kind of thing, but many times it seems like this is attractive going this way because I'm going to get what I want. The problem is almost never does it deliver. Even when we get the thing we thought we want, it doesn't deliver it in a way that we feel the satisfaction that we thought we were going to. But goodwill, on the other hand, goodwill, God's will, goodwill. Goodwill is what's best for everybody, what's best for everyone, the common welfare. Now, one of the things about this, and I really want to be clear because we're confused about goodwill, we're confused about the common welfare. We think it's communism. We think it's socialism. It's not. The real common welfare is what's best for everyone involved. And since, even though you tried not to be, you are part of everyone, it has to be what's best for you. If it's best for everyone involved, then it has to be best for you too. Now, this is the trick. The trick is to figure out, to come to what it is that's best for everyone involved. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, and don't be confused about it, because you can't figure it out. It can't be figured out. It can't be written down ahead of time. Can't make a recipe. You can't make here's how to do it by step like this. Except for this method that works is quietness, inner reflection. And the more we practice that, being able to, because we have to quiet the fearful voice. We have to quiet that thing in us that's just railing, that just wants to get what it wants. That's got to be quiet first. And then Spirit can be heard. Spirit's always speaking. Spirit's always giving us what we need at every moment, but it we can't hear it because of all of the chatter that's going on in the mind. And so we make a decision. Third thing I say to myself every morning is I align my will with goodwill. Now, when I say that, I'm making an affirmation, but I'm also making my intention known. Making my intention known, there's nobody there but me, right? I'm making my intention known to myself. This is what I'm doing right now. And I know how that feels. I know how it feels to align my will with goodwill. So I start off with that intention, and I say it out loud so that I can hear it. And something happens, and this is well known, that the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between you trying to fool yourself or what's real, right? So you tell it something, it just picks it up and does something with it. And so even if I'm doubting that I can actually align my will for any length of time with goodwill, subconscious mind hears it and starts to go along with the program. Now, unfortunately, the next thing I tell myself may totally nullify that first thing, because the subconscious mind's always listening to that stuff. But as soon as I find myself anxious, as soon as I hear that small voice is screeching again, I stop again. Relax, do it again. So then from this point of being quiet and looking for guidance, we move to this next thing, which is the development of wisdom. And this is you've heard this before, that the unexamined life is not worth living. So to just go through life and just bounce from one event to the next is just not satisfying. And after a while, we start to feel the effects of that not being sad. We can have stretches where we're having adventures or whatever, and these things seem to be going good, but it'll come a point where when we're really not paying attention to what's going on, it is just not fulfilling. And so we examine ourselves, we examine our lives, we examine our motives, we figure out, what is going on, and we make some decisions as to what we're going to do after that. So the first thing is I just suggest there's a very simple technique to start this process. And one of the major things that keeps us from peace is resentment. The other, its twin, is regret. So resentment and regret keep us from peace. And the reason that is because peace is only in the present moment. Now, for a whole bunch of people right now, peace is a hope in the future. We're hoping for peace in the Middle East. We're hoping for world peace. We're hoping for someday maybe I'll get a little peace. It's a hope in the future. But peace is only in the present. We can't experience it if we are continually in regret and resentment. So regret and resentment are always stealing peace, which is the place where we can actually make the decision, where we can actually have inner experience come out in expression in the world. Is from that. If it's going to be, we can have inner experience turmoil. We can have inner experience avarice. We can have inner experience any you name it, envy, anger. All of this can come. We can have that inner experience come out. But if we want to be the mystic on the path, last week I tweeted out that if we want to be a true seeker on the path to peace, the first thing to realize is that we can't go alone. And so from a place of peace, we realize that we're together. We're all together in this. I'm not alone. So if I'm not alone, then I don't have to be afraid. And all these things just start to work together. So the first question in this self-examination would be, who am I mad at? Who am I mad at? Somebody came to mind right now. You didn't want it to, but there it was. Who am I mad at and why? Just write down a list of names of people that you're mad at. You'll be surprised sometimes how many it is. But why? This is important to figure out what it is obviously if you're mad at them, you think they did something to you. Okay, write that down. That's why then. That's why. Then upon further examination, you may find that the reason you're mad at them is really, it has something to do with what you thought they did to you, but there's something else going on there too. All I'm going to say is keep looking at it. And the second question is, what do I regret? What do I regret? And why? Now this is very important. These two things, you don't have to search back into your childhood for these resentments or these regrets. These are going to be things that are very near the surface. These are things that you think about all the time. You'll be driving down the street, something will trigger it, and all of a sudden you'll have a resentment. You'll remember something that somebody did, and it'll make you mad for a second. Resentment, resent means it's looping. It keeps coming back over and over. I don't want you to go get some old hurt out of the locker and bring it back out here. First, let's just start with what's right there present, what's going on right now, over and over, these resentments. You're seeing pictures of people, you're seeing pictures of institutions, or old jobs, or whatever, these things. You'll find that the resentments and the regrets link up in a lot of ways together. The other day, we were driving up here, and I heard a word that flipped me back to a regret that I had about how I handled a situation 10 years ago. And it just looped real quick through. This is what I'm talking about. If it comes to mind, put it down. Just write it down. I think it's good to be thorough. But again, you're not going to have to dig too deep, because here's the thing about it. You don't have to go back. If it's not coming to mind, you don't have to go back and dig it up, because the regrets and resentments that you're having today are very similar to the ones you were having in the past. And so the pattern is going to be the same. The specifics really don't matter. So who am I mad at and why? What do I regret and why? And then the next question is, what am I good at? What am I good at? And this would be, now this is really important because a lot of people really have a suspicion way deep down in that they're not good at much. So I'll give you a couple of things to help you here. Any accomplishment that you've had in the past, however long ago it was, here you can go back as far as you want into the past. And then not just what you think is an accomplishment, anything that anybody complimented you on that you can think of. Anything that comes to mind that somebody complimented you did a good job. Now, unfortunately, some bosses say good job when they can't think of what the real thing was that you did that was good, and they just say good job. They don't get real specific about it. But if you got a good one, they will sometimes tell you that you did good in this area right here. But so what are you good at? And it could be anything. I mean, it could be, don't think of it as nothing is too trivial or nothing is too grand to put on this list. And then the fourth question is, what do you like to do? Now, some of these things that you're good at are going to be the same as what you like to do. Some of the things you're good at, you just don't do anymore for whatever reason, right? You're good at it, but you really don't do it anymore. What do you like to do? Make a list. What do you like to do? And it could be like, I like to go fishing. Okay? It could be, I like to go for a bike ride. I like to play racquetball. I like to just sit and not do anything. I like to watch television. And we're going to examine these things, right? So then the last question is, what are my hopes and dreams? What are my hopes and dreams? And here I want you to go back as far as you can remember. When you were a little kid, the first time you had a dream about something. Just write it down. Write down what it was. Now, this process, after this stuff is written, it's a good idea to look at it. To look at it really closely and just see, because there are going to be things on there that at one time you thought that this was this great hope. It was a dream that you had. But today when you look at it, it could just be something like you say, that's really surface. It just doesn't appeal to me today. Because one of the dreams might be that you wanted to be a movie star, right? Well, I'm going to tell you that wanting to be a movie star, there could be a number of things going on there. The first thing is you just want to be famous, right? You want other people to treat you with celebrity. Probably not as pleasant as we might think. But it could just be that you want to act, that you want to be in movies. That you want to be, you want to act. You want to be part of that thing. That's a whole different thing than wanting celebrity. So it's kind of important to really recognize when you write down that dream, what's that about? Is that about everybody knowing me when I walk in the room? Or is that about me developing a craft and an art where I can really touch people with my performance? Like that. So there's a movie playing right now. It actually was released in some theaters in January of last year, but it's I don't know if it's playing in Rockford anymore. It's called Whiplash. And when I read the review before we went to the movie in Seattle to see it, when I read the review, it said best movie of the decade. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I had my doubts, right? It was an independent film, and J.K. Simmons is the main character that you would know. He is the bald guy that played the psychiatrist on Law and Order for years, and he's the guy on the Farmers Insurance commercials. Okay, you got him now, right? Well, okay, so it's a movie about a jazz drummer, a young jazz drummer who's in a very exclusive school, the toughest music school in New York. You could think it was Juilliard, but I don't know. They call it something else. But J.K. Simmons is the most tyrannical, toughest, hardest, meanest, like really cruelest teacher that you could ever imagine. Just unbelievable abuse is heaped upon the students. And this kid he just wants to be the greatest drummer in the world. That's really what he wants. I mean, this is his deal. And he's willing to sacrifice anything. He's willing to sacrifice anything. Love, family relationships, anything. His body. I mean, there's a lot of scenes of his hands becoming bloody from practicing so long. So the question at the end that you are left with, and I won't give you any more than that, the question at the end is, was it worth it? That's the question. So I would just recommend the movie to you. Now there's, pure jazz fans are not real happy with the movie because there's some errors, there's a presentation of the music in a way that's a little more shallow than what's really going on in the jazz life. But the music is really pretty good, but the story is unbelievable. It is stunning. So I would say, and when I got out of the movie, I texted a couple of people and said, best movie of the decade. So this is the idea. This is what we're talking about here, about going within and finding out what it is that we want to do. And by the way, it's never too late to figure this. If you're still breathing, you can do this. So we go within and we look at this at it and say, what's really going on? We take a little bit of time to now. Okay, so this is not just a 5-minute assignment. You can treat it as an assignment, or you can treat it as a suggestion.